Good evening. We'll call our meeting to order. And I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kmaq in the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. We'll now have a moment of silent contemplation. All right, and moving on, before we go to the approval of the agenda, I'd like to welcome Jason Hahn, our municipal advisor, who has joined us this evening. So welcome, Jason. I would be looking for approval of or amendments to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. I'd now be looking for the approval of the minutes of April 16th, 2024 Council Policy and in camera, and April 24th, 2024 regular meeting of Council.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Hebb, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. We will now move to correspondence for information. Have this in front of you, folks. Okay, Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm just wondering about item 56. It's the site plan approval for 429 Highway 2 in Enfield. This was an application that went through before there were changes to the MUC zoning. And so there is a 5-story building there, which comes under the, at that time, the recommended height of what was allowed. But my concern is back with the development on Bakery Lane, when we had that meeting, it's coming to my attention that some of these buildings, underground parking, are fully exposed. Some of them across, and I mentioned this before, but I'm bringing it up again, because when we're putting up 5-story buildings, you know, that let's say that there's a 15-meter height regulation or restriction, but they've got a 4-meter foundation with parking in it. Does that mean that it's 19 meters?
John?
Through Madam Warden, no, in this case, because they've exercised the total number of meters are permitted to go in terms of height, they're limited to that, and that's measured from grade. So it doesn't matter, you know, if the parking is half out of the ground or not, they're capped at, and I can't remember the number of meters, it might be 15, but.
And that's fine. But I'm just, as I say, like those ones close to the Magnolia, they're practically fully exposed. You're driving in at ground level, which means that it's adding a full story to the height of these 4-story buildings. And then they mound the property up to cover it a bit. So what is grade? You know, is the grade the fact that they're driving in, or that they've mounded, they're backfilling around it to up higher? You know, like in my mind, it's making buildings almost a full story higher than what they're permitted to be. So I have some concerns about this.
John?
And through you, Madam Warden, I don't have the building elevations in front of me, so I can't quite tell, but I can find out.
Okay, like say for example, across from the police station, as I've mentioned, you've got one with underground parking, but it is at the front on the ground level, on the road frontage, it's literally at ground level. So you've got a 3-story building that is literally only 3 stories high. But this one at the close to the Magnolia, and we've got a whole bunch of apartments that are going to be going up right in that small area. And this is a concern to me that I don't know if we should, maybe, John, if you've got information that you can come back
Yep.
to us with that. I'd just like to like to know a little more about it and what the actual restriction is and, you know, what the height of these buildings are once they're finished. Thank you.
Counselor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff on the, I'm looking at number 66, the curbside collection changes. Will that information be sent out to the public? It's supposed to be effective June 1st for the next collection day. I know a lot of people don't go on the website, so they just put stuff out regardless. So I'm just curious how the information gets out to the public, so they'll know.
Nesson?
Through Madam Warden, there'll be social media posts, and we'll also be able to do alerts for those that have signed up for the app. So there'll be, that will go out, and the changes are really, they're not necessarily regular disposal items on frequency, so it should be some gradual, we have time, regardless of it starting fairly quickly.
Right.
It will be a good transition times, but that will be rolling out. There's some information that's already started to go out, and we'll continue to do so.
I was looking, I have the list there, devices for measuring time. Is that a watch?
Yes,
Okay.
Could be a clock.
Good,
clock, watch, electronic sundial.
yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
No, I had the list, I printed off. I was just seeing if I can put my watch up next time.
Counselor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to Jesse. Jesse, the number 11, that letter to Public Work for the culvert on East Uniacke. I think I asked you to explore if they can do more than at the road to Powell Drive, like if they look at the rest of East Uniacke Road, like probably to Lake Crest or something, because that area is much worse than the one they're doing now.
Through you, Madam Warden, excellent timing on the comment. I'll follow up with the province. They responded this week on the reception of a couple letters, that being one of them. And so I've got a good in to follow up and just explore further. Now, the province is doing a repaving on a portion of East Uniacke Road, but there's more work to do in the area. We've already commented on that's not enough scope, but we'll follow up and reiterate on that. I actually, I drove the road to what you could last week to experience it a couple times. So it's very narrow, a lot of shoulder wear off. You could lose a tire in some of the ruts. There's definitely a need there. And so staff will follow up this week with a reiteration of that expanded scope.
Thank you.
Counselor Tingley.
Through the chair, possibly to Jesse as well. Item number 29, the capacity study regarding the item regarding RVA report listed for the culvert study, Appendix 8 it is. Just a question, has that information been shared with Public Works and CN, or will it be shared with them? What's the next steps with that, or does anything have to happen?
The CAO said she could take that one.
Through you, Madam Warden. So typically, this is a study that council has commissioned, and the work has been done. It's been reviewed by staff. We've prepared a lot of information as follow-up to this report back and forth with the consultants. It is now in front of council as an information piece, but as you'll note, it's going to be presented to council in September of this year in a more fulsome conversation. It's a very detailed technical report. So typically, we would not share anything with another branch of government or another agency until council has received a report and has given us direction on what to do with it. That's our general way forward. If council wants us to share information before that, we would need direction to do that.
That's good, thanks.
Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. through you to staff, I was going to expand on to Director of INO about what Councillor Musa was saying about like the paving that's scheduled, and it's a good time because they are paving over that bridge, and that like they're going from the end of where it connects from Eder Road up to Powell Drive, so that bridge is in their current scope of paving. So for upgrading that bridge now would be the time before it's too late, but I fully agree with the comments previously made. The whole road really needs to be looked at. Also looking at item number 57, the site plan approval sheet for Lot 1A Mount Uniacke. It's been discussed that this was updated on May 16th, 2024, and this is not the drawing that was presented at the public information meeting. So I've already asked this question to the Director of Planning, and he's going to look into it and get back to me. But I wanted the public to know that this drawing, which is now up there, is not what they saw at the public information meeting. This is different, and so we're questioning why it's different, and hopefully an answer will come in the future. So anybody who's watching and they see this document under the approval section will know it's being looked at. And that's, oh, and finally, item 58 for South Rawdon Road. I really can't tell on the map that's provided exactly where this campground is at. Everything is really small writing, and when I blow it up, it's still hard to read. So if somebody from staff could point out where.
The address is at the top.
It's 223 South Rawdon Road. But when I look at the map, just trying to see in the relation to.
Could we bring up perhaps a different map that we could blow up and have a look? At 223, that would tell me it would be fairly
Or
close.
2322.
Oh,
2322.
All right, I was gonna say it'd be pretty close to the end, but
Yeah.
2322, it could be up into my area.
Yeah, it's.
Just before Nichols.
Or-
It would be on the South Rawdon Road, just a little bit north of Ashdale Road, if you know where
Okay.
that is,
Okay.
on the left side.
On the left side. Okay, no, I just trying to think in relation because there's different developments and different things going on. Any type of business moving to the rural community, I'm 100% for. I just wanted to make sure that I kind of could place it. I really just could place it. That's all I have, Warden. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything from correspondence for information they wish to raise? Seeing none, we'll go to correspondence for decision. First item, council is asked to consider investments of reserves in GIC products. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Wade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we wanted to bring this issue forward to council because there's an opportunity for council to make a decision to invest in GICs that might provide an additional $400,000 to the municipality over the next 2 years. Right now, we invest our reserve cash into with the bank, and we earn prime less a certain percentage. But as prime moves, it floats. And so over the next 2 years, expected that interest rates will decline. That's what we're hearing from the banks and all the economists. And so as that happens, our interest rates will decline, and we will no longer earn those high interest rates. But we have an opportunity now to lock in those rates for up to 2 years and earn higher rates over the long term. So we're considering doing that, and we're asking council to consider that as an option today.
Councilor Rhino.
Well, thank you, Madam Warden. I guess my question is, why is this coming here on council night? And is there some reason why it didn't come through flow through executive committee? I really don't like when things come of this nature that we have to make a decision on the spur of the moment, and we're expected to do it tonight without more detailed or whatever talk on it. You know, I just find this a problem, and I think it's been happening a little bit too much. Thank you.
CAO.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Generally, something like this would come through committee. There is risk here with the change in interest rates that this change over the next, 15 to 30 days. We don't know what the interest rates are going to do. So this is one of those instances where we see an opportunity. We need to be able to move fairly quickly on it, and we could have waited. We talked about whether we should wait or bring it to council tonight. We could have waited, but then the opportunity might have been reduced. These rates are going down slowly, as small increments, but steadily. So you don't have to deal with it tonight. It's a recommendation coming forward. If you want to deal with it tonight, we do know that the numbers in the report are what you can likely expect. If you defer it to committee day, then the risk is that you're not going to get the interest rates. The choice is absolutely up to council, but it was an opportunity that as two professional accountants sitting down to review the issue, we couldn't just sit on and take that risk. If you want to take the risk, you're more than welcome to, but I agree with Councillor Rhino. These things typically would not come to council, but you're talking some fairly large dollars over the next 2 years, so.
So I guess my question is, so this risk has materialized, or this here has materialized since our executive committee meeting?
Well, I guess our attention to it has, yes. So, I mean, the interest rates are known, and, interest rates have been topics in the news for a number of months and years, really. But our attention to this has happened in the last few weeks, and it takes time and energy to get information together to bring to council. We asked the bank to give us updated numbers yesterday. They gave them to us at 4:30 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. So this is as soon as we can get that information to you. Again, council doesn't need to make a decision on this tonight, but it's in front of you for what you want us to do next. If the answer is nothing, then we'll do nothing and keep investing the way we've been investing. Thank you.
Well, I've made my point. I really prefer these to come through executive for proper discussion and not rush to the council. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And through you, I understand Councillor Rhino's point, and yes, it would be beneficial for this to come through, to have more discussion and have more input. I also hear what the CAO is saying, and I do. Things have changed in the last 2 weeks. The economic outlook has changed. There was talks of holding, there was talks of dropping, and now they're forecasting 3 drops by the end of the calendar year. So I think it would be beneficial and the best thing for the public's money to receive the higher interest rate, to ensure that anything that we have in reserves is growing, because we have used those reserves quite a bit over the last 4 years to do many projects in many areas of the municipality, and having a healthy reserve is the way to backstop against rapid tax increases to the population. So for that reason, I will move that council authorizes the CAO to invest up to $220 million of reserve cash in one or more of the largest 5 Canadian Schedule I bank guaranteed investment certificates, having a term of no longer than 2 years.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question has been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 10-1, with Councillor Rhino voting nay. Next item. We have a request from the Liberal Caucus of Nova Scotia, who will be in the area June 12th, and wondered if we would like to arrange a meeting to discuss local issues. We brought this forward to you for decision. We have had requests from the past, from the Liberals, the NDP, and the Conservatives at times, and it has always been the practice that council does not enter into political discussions like that unless all three political parties are, you know, we were having a meeting when all three could be present, but at the end of the day, it's council's decision. So, Councillor Perry.
Yes, Warden, you kind of took some of the words out of my mouth about all three being present. That being said, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to get the thinking and the direction of what each party is thinking heading into the next provincial election. But I do believe all three parties should either be present or all three parties should have the same opportunity to present individually. And that if we do move forward with granting this request, that letters be sent to all the other official parties, that they have the same opportunity to present their ideas and have a meeting with us here in the municipality. And I don't know how many official parties there are. I do know in some areas there's 4 or 5 on the electoral ballot, and which ones have a group of standing. But we would have to make sure that all parties were given the opportunity, not just the big 3 or 4. Thank you.
Any further comments? So what is your wish, folks? Do we wish to perhaps offer an invitation to all three parties for some particular date or something to come talk to us? Or do you wish to, Councillor Rhino?
I would move that a letter be sent to the Liberal caucus explaining that we do not meet on an individual basis unless all parties are present.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Tingley. On before the motion, Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I think that Councillor Perry's idea of entertaining meeting with the Liberal caucus and inviting the other caucuses, and I think we could limit it to the caucuses that are in the legislature now. Never hurts to talk to the political parties. The idea of having them all three together, or 4 or 5, if we invited possibly, I think the Atlantica Party has disappeared now, but the Green Party may still exist. That probably wouldn't be that productive. I can't think of any of the parties who'd like to get together with all together to discuss with us. But it should be a good idea, good opportunity for us to question the different parties. The Liberal caucus wants to talk to us. Why shouldn't we listen to them? If the PC caucus, NDP caucus want to speak with us, we can question them too, see what their thoughts are. There is an election coming up probably in the next 12 or so months, so I'm in favor of taking up the invitation of the Liberal caucus to speak with us so we can ask them, and sending out letters to the other parties. See if we can, I think it could be productive for council to speak to all the parties. Anyway, that's everything for me.
Councillor
Question on the
Ham.
motion. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Following up on Councillor McPhee, I think it's a good idea to have all the parties invited separately to come in here and talk to us. We can relay the information that we have and the things we'd like to see done, and what can they do to help us. And I think it's, you know, if they don't know what council feels or what the issues of councils are, it's pretty hard for them to work on it. But if they have a meeting with us to understand our issues and what we want from the political parties, it's no harm. I think it's a worthwhile investment to have these parties invited, and if they don't want to come, that's fine. But I will not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Question.
So just so everyone's clear, the motion would not accept the offer and would explain that we would prefer to, you know, we would want to speak with all parties, not just one. So, are you ready for the question? Question's been called. The motion is passed by a vote of 6 to 5. with Counselor McPhee, Hebb, Perry, Mitchell, and Eisner voting nay. Now, that's not to say, gentlemen, we turned this offer down for the specific date, but we could certainly look at our calendars and pick some dates that might work and send out some invitations to all parties and see what interest was there, if that was the wish of council. I'll just throw that out there. Let you roll it over in your heads, and if someone wishes to make a motion at some point in the future, we could entertain that. Next item, an email from Dusan Sudek from Canoe Kayak Nova Scotia, Director of Environment, regarding damage of the Meek Road Canoe Kayak launch site as a result of a July 2023 flood event. The estimate to repair is $4,000 to $5,000, and there are also concerns regarding inadequate culvert sizing under the Meek Road, which is provincially owned. CKNS believes this is outside of the agreement with the municipality, but they are responsible for routine maintenance only. The agreement is due to expire at the end of September 2024, which may not be renewed without support and remediation of the site. Now, Alana's going to take this. I know there has been some correspondence back and forth around this, so over to you, Alana.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So you captured it pretty much in its entirety. There has been correspondence back and forth with the group. So a little more back history. We've had an agreement with the group since 2020. It is set to expire in September 2024. Under some previous board members of the group, they have actually used DRF to do similar projects where they've graveled the parking lot area, et cetera. So initially, we did encourage the group to go through DRF, and they went back to their board, and the board opted not to exercise that option, and then they indicated via this communication that they felt it was the municipality's responsibility to repair, and that's not necessarily how the agreement has been sort of utilized to date. So really, it's sort of having council input and discussion as to, do we go back to the group and again say DRF is really the expectation here, or would council like PRC to look at what that cost would look like internally? It's not something or a project that we've budgeted for, so we would have to look at a funding source. Also understanding that council may wish to have some other options presented to them at a later date at executive in terms of...
I mean, the damage does, just from what we can see in the picture, appear to be quite severe. It is in my district, and there are certainly sufficient DRF funds available there that, and I would support funding this repair in its entirety without them having to do 50-50. But I don't know if they understand that that's a possibility or not. They would still have to manage the repair project, and I think perhaps that's the catch perhaps there. I don't know.
Through you, Madam Warden, I think that's the underlying tone we're getting, is that perhaps with the change of the executive, the project management piece is a bit of a concern for the group, so that's why perhaps there's pushback, and they would prefer that the municipality.
I do think it's well used, and I would hate to see it lapse. But
Could we?
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam. Through you to staff, I know post-flood, there was a lot of the organizations received provincial money to help mitigate a lot of the items similar to this. I don't know if Canoe Kayak Nova Scotia received any of that funding, because maybe this just wasn't on their list at the time, and maybe it lapsed, and that's why there's been no provincial funding. But I do see where there is a culvert involved in this. I fully support, like what the warden said, like she's going to, with the DRF funds. I hate to see it lapse, but I do think the province with the culvert and with some of the issues here, they've normally stepped in to help a lot of groups like this in the past, dealing with things like they helped us with the flooding at the pool, and they helped us they helped other organizations across the province of similar recreation. So I don't know if they just didn't apply for it or if this was not on their list when they did apply for it. So I think it'd be a question to ask them if they knew that that was available, and maybe also connecting them to the MLA to see if there's anything available in that regard as well.
Through the warden, I can't speak if the group actually tried to look into those different resources. Certainly, if council wanted us to entertain project managing that particular project with a source of funding, it's certainly something we could assist the group with. We certainly have capacity for that as well. Or alternatively, if they want us to, look at other options, we can.
So, like for me, we have very limited number of staff, and we have a lot of projects already ongoing. So there'll be some things come up tonight in business from counselors about timelines, about projects, and about delays. So if we were to take on a project like this, what gets delayed, what gets put off, how much time does it take? Because this is a key thing that's happening.
I think this project would take days of that.
Absolutely. So I have spoken with staff, and they do feel that they have the capacity to project manage this particular project due to the nature of it. That would not impact other projects that are on the books or could come up through business from council.
Okay. Well, I would be willing to move that staff help manage the project in coordination with their group. The warden has already offered up the funding from her DRF account, but I would also say, as part of that project management, seeking other sources of funding from the province for the flood mitigation measures that have been done in the past.
I'll second that.
Okay, just for clarity, are we going, I'm perfectly happy to support this through DRF, but I don't want a no cap amount on there. I don't expect to find anything.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, what number were you comfortable with, Warden? And we can put that in the motion.
Through
Could we
you.
scroll that back down, please? Because we have to get more quotes too. I'm assuming, 4,000 to 5,000.
Yep.
So that's probably somewhere, I would even say up to $6,000.
Okay.
I'd be
Okay.
prepared to support that. And I would just remind council too, that we own this. This is not owned by this group. The municipality owns this kayak and canoe launch. And, we're actively working in other areas of the municipality for water access. And we have water access here, and we're fortunate enough to have this group to do the day-to-day management and running of it. So that's why I'm happy to support if they're willing to continue that relationship. So we have a motion by Councillor Perry. We have a seconder. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Okay, I have 3 people who were on prior to the motion. Councillor Garden Cole. Oh, sorry, I have to turn some mics off here. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Warden. So just a question about DRF funds. So if something comes up outside of the regular application for DRF funds, how does that go about being used or distributed?
It would require a motion of council because it is outside council's policy and the regular dates, but council does have the authority to allocate those funds at any time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rhino.
Well, I guess for me, it's thank you, Madam Warden, for letting me speak. I guess for me, it's kind of the same issue as I spoke on here earlier. Did this item come in after the executive committee
We have
day? And, my concern is the DRFs you're saying will look after the dollar figure. We own the property, but staff would have to project manage this, which was not planned. And so that's my concern, that staff has a number of items on their list. And do we, they're saying that they can do it, but I just feel uncomfortable making decisions on the spur of the moment at council night without prior discussion on this. And so that's my thoughts.
My apologies, Counselor. I thought we had discussed this at committee at some point, but perhaps we didn't. Perhaps because the original correspondence came to me and I replied and then I talked to staff. So it may not have come through committee. I may just be remembering the original correspondence. It's not something that's new. It's something that we've been aware of, and we were kind of waiting for the group to get back to us and see if they were going to put in a request for DRF, I guess. That had been my advice to them.
Well, my problem lies around, you know, we're making these quick decisions at council evening without proper discussion at executive. I can hear what your explanation is, but then we're going to, you know, we are going to tie up staff time on a project that was not on the list prior to this. So those are my concerns. So, thank you.
CAO.
Through you, Madam Warden, I was just going to provide some clarity. This actually, the conversation started before the last executive, but it really has come to light and started gaining legs, I guess, since executive. But this is something that would always come to council for decision, and you could either make a decision at council or you can direct it back for a staff report to executive. We wouldn't necessarily action something that came in as a request directly to committee without council giving us that direction, because it might not be something you want to enter into at all. So generally, that's the way that it would work. Thank you.
Well, I guess I beg to differ on that, because I'm pretty sure that there's a number of things that come up through the agenda items that were not sanctioned all the time by council. So I really have a little bit of problem with that one. Thank you.
Well, I would just comment, Counselor, that any time a counselor has a district rec opportunity or request that is not falling within the regular timing of them, I have always brought those directly to council, usually through business from counselors, and asked council to entertain them. And council generally has entertained those, but as the CAO has said, if there were any concern, they could certainly send it back to staff for further review if they want it. But that has been the way I have done it, and I apologize if that's not the way folks would like it to continue to be done. Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Actually, I was gonna say you could have brought it up at business from councillors, and we could have dealt with it right away. But it's a very good asset for the municipality, and I think 3 district or 4 district benefit from that. And in the past, we have supported, like I know District 8 and 9 have supported this project, and I'm willing to support like my fair share out of it. And I don't know about Councillor Perry, but it's something that unique in our area, and a lot of people use it, and we should keep it like, we shouldn't downgrade it to the organization to do it. I think we have better like way to get funding for it, and we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Question's been called. The motion is passed by a vote of 10 to 1. Councillor Rhino voting nay. That concludes correspondence for decision. We will now move on to committee reports. We will start, Councillor Musa, you had a comment before we moved on?
Do we need any money figure, or it's gonna come back?
Well, I think staff will correspond with the group, and if it ends up that we're project managing it, it's a very small project. I don't know what the requirements are for quotes or tenders or whatever where it's that small, but I guess staff would.
Through you, Madam Warden, we'd follow our typical procurement practices where we get multiple quotes if required.
Yeah, but where the money's gonna come from? If we wanna
Okay.
put some money from our district,
We're
or
very happy to accept anything, but I mean, there is more than enough money in my district, but
should we do it now or later? We're gonna
Yeah.
have. If up to 6,000, I'd like to put 2,000 toward it.
So I think Councillor Musa would like to make a motion saying that his district would pay half of it up to a total 2,000 or 3,000, did you say? So Councillor Musa, up to an amount of $6,000 for total cost, Councillor Musa would fund 3,000 from his DRF and I would fund 3,000 from mine. Are you making that a motion, Councillor Musa? Okay, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Head. Discussion on the motion, question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously. All right, moving to committee reports. Over to you, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on the 21st of May, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of those meetings. Sustainable Services Growth Fund. In March, a letter was received from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the Municipal Growth Program, indicating funding was allocated to the Medical Center lift station. This, in addition to changes in projects initially targeted for the 2023 for the SFGF grants, indicated a reallocation of grants of the grant is warranted to ensure the SFGF grant funds are used by the required date of March 31st, 2025. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends that Council approve the revised allocation of the $1,123,778 SSGF grant towards the following projects: Medical Center Lift Station, $451,651. Waste Management Loader, $286,557. Lance Water Tower Renewal, $424,348. Waste Management Center Green Bin Storage Structure, $10,220. As Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rhino.
Yes, I will support the motion, but as I said in committee, when these grants become available from the province, I'm wondering if we could have ready projects that could be dispersed over the entire municipality with regard and have them ready on hand, because, you know, I see these grants, which were great, you know, we can use them here, but I'd like to try to see some of that money be equity split across the entire municipality, not just in one certain area. Thank you.
I guess the problem is that we don't know when provincial money is going to be available or how much, so to have projects sitting at the ready that we don't intend to do is kind of difficult to do. And I think what staff has attempted to do here is apply it to projects that are ready, but certainly understand the concerns, and certainly, you know, I expect that staff do look at all projects that are at that level to do this. Anything further?
Question.
Councillor Mitchell.
Oh, sorry.
Just a quick question, thank you, Madam Warden, through the staff. With the waste management loader, is this an additional one to the one with the ones we have on that? Or are we making change?
Jesse? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Through Madam Warden, this is for the loader that's already been purchased. The criteria for the timeline allows us to go back and do that because it was granted prior to our original purchase. We're just going back and doing the financial transaction piece after the fact. So it's already been purchased.
Oh, so just the one, two?
Through Madam Warden, we purchased one new loader this past procurement cycle and chose to keep our old one. That was the process.
Smart, thank you.
Good.
Back to you. Councillor Perry. Oh, sorry. Yes, we should vote on that motion, shouldn't we? The question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Now back to you, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Warden. Donation fund and acceptance of donations policy. RBC contacted the municipality indicating they wanted to make a monetary donation to East Hants Youth Links. To facilitate that donation, the municipality can establish a fund to do so. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that council approve the creation of an East Hants Youth Links donation fund and that the annual grant be provided to East Hants Youth Links in the amount of funds collected from outside parties. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second it.
Seconded by the deputy warden. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Counselor.
Asset Management Program Update. The Asset Coordinator presented a report titled Asset Management Program Update. No motions are coming forward as a result of this report. Fire self-insurance. The East Hants Fire Service would like to investigate a self-insurance as a method of reducing their expenses with respect to insurance. The Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends that council direct staff to advise the fire service to prepare or obtain written business case which lays out the ways they may consider self-insurance going forward, lines of assurance affected, levels of SIR, administrative support, the sources of funding they would use for the self-insurance retention, if any, the administrative cost, if any, and the savings they anticipate can be made by self-insuring. Council authorizes payment up to $2,500 from the fire expense budget for the business case. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Counselor Tingley.
To the chair, I just want to abstain from this because in committee it mentioned the person that was going to be doing this study for the fire department. And I am pretty acquainted with this person. If he's going to have a contract here, I don't think I should be voting on it.
So you're declaring a conflict.
I'm declaring a conflict.
We'll let you get the book. Any further discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question has been called. The motion is passed by a vote of 8-2, with Councillor Rhino and myself voting nay.
Uniac Business Park Business Owners Meeting Report and Crime and Infrastructure. In March 2024, Economic Business Development staff, RCMP, and local councillors met with the Uniac Business Park owners and tenants to discuss security concerns and infrastructure concerns and service level. The Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends to Council that crime prevention and proactive patrols continue to be a priority for the RCMP and that crime statistics specific to the 3 business parks be included in the RCMP quarterly report to Council. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Musa. Any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Councillor.
Provincial Clean Power Information Report moved to the end of the day. The Sustainability Coordinator presented a report titled Provincial Clean Power Plan Information Report. No motions came forward as a result of this report. As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. Next, we will move to the Planning Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on May 21st, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Presentation update, ABO Energy, formerly ABO Wind, Melville Lake Project. Representatives from ABO Energy, formerly ABO Wind, provide an update on the Melville Lake Project. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to Council that Council authorize staff to prepare a letter of support for ABO Energy with respect to the Melville Lake Project. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Counselor.
Motion C 24-89, lot grading and drainage unserviced areas. Council requests a report regarding instituting a lot grading plan for unserviced area, including both subdivisions and single lots. Staff prepared a report outlining options. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council make no changes to bylaw P 1200, lot grading and drainage. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden, Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I cannot support this motion. As rapid development starts to happen in our on-serviced areas, I believe it is incumbent that we make it clear that we need to protect existing homeowners as well as new purchased homeowners, that their wells and septics will not be affected by building upon ground as their neighbors are. I don't think the cost is too prohibitive in doing so. When you look at the cost of a well being well over $10,000 and a septic being over $25,000, and then the litigation cost and the aggravation that has to happen, a lot grading plan would provide the engineering certificate that it would not affect those, and then if it does, there would be better recourse for anybody who was affected in a litigation case against the insurance of that engineering firm. So for those reasons, I believe we should be doing a lot grading plan to help protect as rapid growth happens in all the on-service areas in this municipality. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the Deputy Warden to take the chair.
Go ahead.
Following up on Counselor Perry's comments, I can't support doing nothing either, because this was brought forward after incidents that happened in my district. And while I certainly don't want to increase the cost of development or building for people in my area, I don't know if just making it the same as what it is in the serviced area is the answer, or if there's something a little different we could do, I don't know. But for me, doing nothing doesn't work, because I look back to subdivisions here in this area 50, 60 years ago, when there was nothing in place requiring this, and look at the problems we have now in, Elmwood and places like this, and at some point in time, I believe we have to start trying to mitigate against that happening in other areas. And I don't know if it's the full lot grading, I don't know, but I just think that for myself, in spite of some increased costs for folks, I can't support doing nothing, so thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Anyone else? Not, be looking for the question? Question's been called, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has been defeated, a vote of 8-3. Councillor McPhee, myself, and Councillor Rhino voting in favor. Motion has been defeated. I'll turn the chair back over to you, Warden.
So following up on that, I guess we'd probably be looking to staff for a little more follow-up on the report to see if there is anything that might, go between the full thing that's done in the serviced area and between nothing. So do we need a motion for staff to come back with a further report? Councillor Perry.
I will move the staff provides a secondary report on lot grading issues in the on-serviced area, to include jurisdictional scan of neighboring or like-sized municipalities for what they do as well, and identify any possible strategies or mitigation items the municipality could consider entering into.
We have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Musa. Oh, let's see here. Any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 10-1. Councillor Rhino voting nay. Back to you, Councillor Mitchell.
Maple Tree Holdings, MPS and LUB mapping amendments. An application was received from Maple Tree Holdings to redesignate and rezone a portion of their property, Mount Uniac, to enable buildings with a ground floor area greater, with a floor area greater than permitted in the regional commercial zone. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council give first reading and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing to consider proposal from Maple Tree Holdings to change the designation and zone of a portion of property identified PID 454-26301 for regional commercial RC to business park BP. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. This goes back to the point raised in correspondence for information that the original lot layout and plot plan has been changed since the public information meeting, and currently the director is going to look into what changes have happened and what has happened. So I don't know how we go forward. Like, we can go forward to a public hearing, but there's some major things that the change that raised a lot of safety concerns that weren't showed at the public information meeting.
And I thought what we saw earlier was a site plan approval.
Approval, yes. That was different than the site plan approval that was showed at the public
But
information
this is for
meeting.
rezoning.
Yes.
Okay, John, just 1 second.
Through you, Madam Warden. So unfortunately, that site plan is for both parts of the property. It shows the approved site plan and the proposed development that's subject to the rezoning. And there was an issue, as the councillor mentioned, at the public information meeting about a proposed driveway connection from Highway 1 all the way through to the business park. So, and I thought there was a commitment to get rid of that, so I'm going to clarify that with the developer. But in the meantime, I don't think that holds you up in terms of giving first reading and authorizing a public hearing. I mean, we won't actually schedule it until, we resolve these issues.
Or alternatively, this motion could be tabled until we have that information and a public hearing scheduled once we have it. Yeah, but those are two choices. We can let it go and they will wait. But if we pass the motion, we are then committed to holding a public hearing on this. If we table the motion, we are not. My comments. Councillor Perry, did you have anything further?
Question.
Okay, question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, back to you, Councillor Perry.
UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Environment. As part of the UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, planning staff consulted with reviewing agencies that have a vested interest in the environmental sustainability of the UNIAC area and provided recommendations. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council authorize staff to include the recommendations outlined in the UNIAC SPS Environment Report in the draft UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Report. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Councillor Mitchell.
UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, Parks and Trails Background Report. As part of the UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, planning staff identified common themes in the UNIAC public survey regarding parks and trails that respondents believe would improve the community. Staff also consulted with staff from Parks, Recreation, and Culture and provided recommendations. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council authorize staff to include the recommendations outlined in the UNIAC SPS Parks and Trails Report in the draft UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Report. As chair of the committee, I so move.
We have a
Seconded.
seconded by the deputy warden. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously. Counselor Mitchell?
Selection of dates for council workshop with FBM regarding land secondary planning strategy. Council were asked to select a date for a workshop with FBM regarding the land secondary planning strategy. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that the workshop be scheduled for July 15th. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. We will now go to Counselor Garden Cole. Infrastructure and Operations.
The committee held its regular meeting on May 21st, 2024 in council chambers. The following motion is coming forward as a result of the meeting. Provincial Capital Assistance Program, PCAP, funding application. The application process for the Provincial Capital Assistance Program opened on May 2nd, 2024 with a June 13th, 2024 deadline. The program requires a resolution of council endorsing specific project submissions. Staff proposed 2 projects. The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommends that council prioritize Project 24-026, the backwash storage, Shubenacadie Water Treatment Plant, as the municipality's first priority for funding applications through the Provincial Capital Assistance Program for 2024. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously by those present in the room.
The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommends that council prioritize Project 24-025, the Spill Boom Regional Water Treatment Plant, as the municipality's second priority for funding applications through the Provincial Capital Assistance Program for 2024. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously by those present.
Second item, Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program, FRIIP, 2024 funding priorities. The application process for the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program opened on May 2nd, 2024, with a June 13th, 2024 deadline. The program requires a resolution of council endorsing specific project submissions. Staff proposed 1 project. The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommends that council prioritize Flood Risk Mitigation Study, Paley Brook, as the municipality's priority for a funding application through the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program for 2024. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously by those present when the motion was made.
Item 3, Cross Connection Control Program. Following review of an in-camera report and staff recommendation, the Infrastructure and Operations Committee requested a staff report considering an expansion of the Cross Connection Control Program. The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommends that the Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommend that council request a staff report on options and cost impacts for the expansion of the current Cross Connection Control Program. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. The motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. Okay, I've done something to my mic set here, so if you can't hear me, folks, just let me know. Moving on, we will go to Police Advisory, Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Committee held its regular meeting on May 21st, 2024 in council chambers. No motions came forward as a result of the meeting. But we did Department of Justice training. I confirmed that the training has been postponed until all public members have been appointed, which is expected this fall. New member oaths were taken by Nicole Cluett and Greg Densmore were sworn in as public members of the Police Advisory Committee. And the RCMP presented their quarterly report, which included and follow-ups to the previous meeting, HR updates, operations update, calls for service, road safety, school resource, and community policing. As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report. Thank you.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. That concludes our committee reports. So I guess next I'll turn the chair over to you, Deputy Warden, for my warden's report. Which I remembered to bring this month. All right, it's been a relatively busy time, I think, for everyone. I'm just going to hit a few high points since we last met. On April the 27th, I had the pleasure of attending the Maitland Volunteer Fire Department's 50th anniversary banquet. It was very well attended and a lovely meal, and I was certainly happy to be invited. On April the 30th, the CAO and I, plus several staff members, attended the business breakfast at the Sportsplex, where our business plan was presented to the business community who had attended. On May 1st, I attended a dinner theater in Knoll for the United Church, and I just mentioned that. It was a very enjoyable evening. May 5th, I attended a tea and a dessert party in my own community that was sponsored by our church. May 8th to 10th, of course, was the NSFM Spring Conference, which several of us did attend, and we did return a little bit early on the last day because something happened and the power went out all over the town of Bedeque, and so the conference center had no backup power. So there were a few presentations scheduled for the last morning that we missed, but on May the 13th, the CAO and I attended and did the business, and I think Wade was maybe there too, if I remember correctly. The business presentation that we did for the business community was presented for the public here in room 168. I don't know if perhaps we had some folks look at it online or not. We did have a couple of public members there who were interested in what was going on. On May the 14th, I attended a virtual meeting for the CLC, the Community Liaison Committee for the Red Spruce Wind Energy Project. And on May the 19th, I did attend a birthday of a friend of mine who lives in Councillor Rhino's district. I attended Ab Annan's 93rd birthday party. And I just returned from a brief vacation from the 22nd to the 28th, and so that brings us up to date until now. From that report, I do have a question for council. I could ask it, well, this is my business from councilors, I guess. As a member of the Community Liaison Committee for that proposed wind energy project, we have sent as council a letter of support for the project. I've been asked by the project people if I would send a similar letter personally, not as warden or counselor, but as a member of the Community Liaison Committee. And I have no problem providing that, but I did tell them that I've been in this business now for near 27 years. I never offer a personal level of support for anything that council has been involved in without council's blessing. So I guess I would just ask if council has any objection to me providing an additional letter.
Anyone have any objection to the warden's letter? Seeing none, I would take that as permission to go forward, Warden.
Thank you. And so that concludes my report at this time. Thank you.
Any questions for the warden on her report? Seeing none, I will turn the chair back over to you, Warden.
Thank you. Well, moving along to business from councillors. Does anyone remember where I started last month? I think it was over there. Yeah. So we'll start with Councillor Rhino tonight.
Thank you, Madam Warden. At the end of April, I attended the Maitland Volunteer Fire Departments as you did, 50th anniversary, presented a certificate on behalf of the municipality. I also attended a dinner theater in Knoll, which was put on at the Knoll Fire Hall, which was very well attended. And I also attended in May, 93rd birthday for a resident of my area, Mr. Albert Annan, who was an icon in the area of his 93rd birthday. Couple of issues have arisen in the last couple of days. One around with the good weather, with the construction, with everything starting to move and boom. Speed has become an issue, as it is in many parts of the municipality, but it's probably being brought up in the Maitland area. I know that the previous budget council passed to purchase speed radar signs, and they were to be installed once it went through a DOT permit process. I believe it was being held up by the area manager who was trying to do investigation on this. I wonder if I could ask through you to the director that have you heard anything more, and has it been any movement on the priority list of getting those radar signs installed?
Through you, Madam Warden, it is the request, an additional request was made by the area manager for it was referred to as study, but really it's consulting, a third-party consultant to validate location. So that I don't believe it's going to be a tremendous cost. But we need to look into executing that here in the coming weeks. So it's the team is planning to get that out. It's an invite-only purchase. It's a low value to validate, but that will take place. So it's delayed installations because otherwise we'd have them up right now, and then we'll have to, but we need to do that before we can get permits from the province to install. So that's where it's at.
Okay, you go on, Councillor Rhino.
Pardon?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so do we have any kind of time frame with regard to that through you to the director? Because, we approved it. I know we're not the ones holding this up. But when I have people calling me about speed going down the village, the big trucks and the construction going, and it's a concern, as it would be in any community. But it just seems like, we waited, and thankfully that light in South Maitland's been installed, but we waited almost 2.5 years for that. Now, is there any indication that DO Public Works is gonna hold us up another 2.5 years to get these installed, which would add to the speed safety in that area? I guess is there, can we do anything? Can we prod, push, or whatever to try to get this expedited?
Through Madam Warden, I don't anticipate this taking another 2 years. It's more of I would anticipate it happening this fiscal year, ideally before before school's in kind of time frame. It would be in sooner, it'd be in spring if it wasn't for the extra process, and I'd say plus or minus based on vacations and review times. Just to give an indication of kind of timelines and process as it relates to the province is we sent official letters to the province. It took a month to receive a validation that they received the letters that we sent, let alone them being reviewed. And so there's just process time, and I can't explain it. I don't fully understand that process time for communications and receiving. It's just an extra factor as we're working through the governmental process. It will be followed up again with the team next week, and I'll ask for what can we do to execute. But it's on the project list for this year.
I guess it was my understanding that when these speed devices were asked, it was lumped in with a number of asks throughout the community in different forms, i.e. speed bumps through here. Is there any way that we can expedite the speed radar traps and not jump the whole thing in as the whole thing in as one? Is there a way to do that, to expedite this process?
Through Madam Warden, we're dealing with it as a standalone topic. It is from a speed hump, traffic mitigation piece. Those are all going in on municipal-owned roads. We control that process separate. It is truly independent, and it's just going back to the anticipation on timelines is we had an understanding on we had an email, yes, this looks good, from a previous area manager, but it wasn't an official approval to proceed from working within the right-of-way. Then there was a gap in staffing for the area manager role for a prolonged period of time, then an acting manager who wasn't making decisions, and then a new approach of the current the current area manager. So it's been a frustrating process from a municipal side of things. I'm not saying that the current area manager is doing anything wrong. Rather, they're just going by the book and trying to they're looking at it with a different set of eyes that we proceeded based on a different understanding from the province. And it's just unfortunate that it's taken this long.
Is it fair for me to ask then that can expect staff to bring this to their attention at every possible angle we can? And every possible moment that we can? Because it seems to me sometimes the squeaky wheel might get the grease, so. Can I have that assurance?
We will put it on a circular reminder for us to pester to the best ability.
I was staying away from that word, but since you brought it up, great.
Just before we move on, Counselor, I'll turn the chair briefly over to the Deputy Warden. So I'm to understand that we went out and we bought these speed signs. We checked with the province and got an unofficial okay that we would certainly be able to set these up. And now, after all this time, it's held up and we can't use them because someone else wants to do something differently and wants a study or reports or approvals or something. And so I'm just wondering why. This is such a simple thing that I do not understand why they would be holding it up. And I know where my mind goes. My mind goes to somebody above the area manager to say, this is what has happened. We are in possession of these signs which we purchased. The problems that we hope to address by purchasing these signs continue to compound, and the dangers that are caused continue to exist and grow. Can't we expedite this? So, could we go over the area manager's head, or could we just have a chat with the MLA and say, is there anything that you could do to perhaps resolve this issue that's become a bit of a thorn in our side? I guess, would staff feel that there would be anything politically that councillors could do by engaging with the MLA on this file, or would they prefer that councillors did not do that?
Through you, Chair, I don't know how that works. On staff would prefer just let staff tackle this one. We've put in the time. We've done some escalations, and it's my belief that our delays have already happened. We've already gone through the worst of the delays, and we're at the point of we know what we need to do to get this done and move it to the
But now
end.
we're going to incur extra expense by having to pay a third party to validate what our staff has already identified as appropriate places to put these signs. Every time we move the sign, we're gonna have to go to a third party for validation? Or are these permanent signs, or are these some mobile signs?
No. Through you, Madam Warden, these are the permanent. These are
Okay.
permanent established locations, not the intermittent ones that we rotate.
Okay.
That would be arduous, and
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
I would be going to anyone and everyone
Okay.
to dispute
All
that.
right, if they're just the permanent ones, then
It's
that was just my question, thank you. I still think it's an unnecessary, unreasonable delay, but I'll leave it at that.
Anything else, Councillor Rhino?
Yes, I'm getting a number of complaints in about garbage being strewn all over the Dawsondale Park. Now, I did not get a chance down to, I've been told that there is no garbage receptacles in that park, or if there are, there isn't very many of them. And I didn't get a chance before I came to get into this. So I'm wondering if there isn't any garbage receptacles in that park, can we have them installed, and especially around the playground areas where I'm getting a lot of the complaints. So I'm wondering what staff feels on that.
Through you, Madam Warden, certainly we do have garbage receptacles in that park. I can't speak entirely to where they are, but we do have garbage receptacles, but certainly staff can go out and assess, and if another receptacle is required closer to the playground, then we can install that.
Okay, that's fair, because I've got numerous complaints in the last week about that. So I'd appreciate if staff could improve on the numbers of receptacles there, and then we could go from that, go on that forward. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Turn the chair back over to you, Warden.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Lots going on in District 1 as the weather improves. We've got lots of development happening and lots of items on the horizon as well. I went to the Mother's Day breakfast at the Enfield Fire Hall, and the lineup was out the door from the beginning of the breakfast to the end, so it's great to see lots of people coming out to community events. A second event I attended was the Open East Hants this Saturday gone by. I stopped in at numerous businesses and locations along the way, and the same thing. It appeared to me to be very well attended. The weather was great. I had the pleasure of dunking the MLA John McDonald in the dunk tank at Adapt over here in the business park. So that capped off a great day for me. I did want to mention that I'd like to thank council for approving the traffic calming measures that we've put in place over the past. It's been a couple of years really from beginning to end, and staff for the hard work in executing them. I really think that it has made a difference for the residents in District 1, in subdivision areas that is, and I think that it should be considered a success going forward for considering future sites to put these traffic calming measures in place. And I know that a lot of residents would agree with me. A lot less complaints, and traffic in general has slowed down. So they were measures that were well appreciated and effective as well. Just have a look here. And I think that's pretty much it for me. Just on a closing note, I had the pleasure of giving a 100th birthday certificate to my mother, Anna Garden, on April 25th. And we did several celebrations, actually. So, yeah, so it was a great time. Thank you.
Counselor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Not a real busy month, but I have some items I want to share. I attended the PIM for the Shubenacadie property for RYC on May 7th. Also took pleasure in going to the NSFM in Bedeque and talking to some colleagues about issues that affect all Nova Scotians. On the 14th, I attended breakfast with MP Cody Blois. He went over the latest budget from the federal government, and I also thanked him for the federal government for increasing the volunteer firefighter and the search and rescue deduction from $3,000 to $6,000. The goal was 10, but he doesn't think they'll go that high. On the 16th, the Equity and Community Wellness and Wellbeing Committee met through the NSFM, and it was that I presented to the RCMP about human trafficking and housing. On the 22nd, TELUS Health Learning webinar, for an hour, I went through, listened to that. It was on embracing equality and inclusivity in the workplace. On the May 24th, I did the survey from the Halifax Stanfield 2024 stakeholder survey for the airport. On the past Saturday, I went to the Sportsplex for the Access Awareness Week event. Staff wanted somebody who could skate. I don't skate that well, but I took my skates and patrolled the Ice Pad B for the time I was there. Also on that day, Open East Hants Day, I also went to Adapt and had the pleasure of dunking MLM McDonald. When he mentioned my age, I dunked him 4 to 5 times just to... And a question through you to staff has to do with sinkholes. And we have a sinkhole on Cody's Lane. I see the pylon still there, so I'm just curious to see if that's fixable or not.
Through Madam Warden, Cody's Lane sinkhole wasn't on my radar. Don't know if it's reported, but it will be reported. If not, I'll follow up with the team and we'll look at it right away. If it's a sinkhole in the roadway, it has to be a priority. So
Well, it's up in the cul-de-sac turn.
Oh, I know. Okay, I know.
Okay.
It'll be found tomorrow.
And that's all, Madam Warden. Thank you.
Counselor Eisner.
Thank you, Madam Warden. On April 25th, the head of job fair Future Works was held at the fire hall in Infield. There's some big hitters there. Gold Bond Canada, which is National Gypsum. Elmsdale Lumber, Spekanicki First Nation was there also. And Infield Earthkeepers and IMP Aerospace, Defense. There was other smaller companies there and was well attended. May 7th, attended subdivision RYC Havenwood and Shubenacadie extension meeting. And also on May 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th and 13th, got our potholes paved in our Renfrew Road and Bonavesta Road. So that was well received, thanks. So that's all for now. Thank you.
Counselor Hebb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one thing. I had a gentleman in my community who turned 95 this year, and I presented him with a certificate, and he was quite elated to get something from the municipality, he said. So very well received. Thank you.
Counselor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, along with yourself and the CAO and Councillor Mitchell, who attended the NSFM conference. And I must say, I really enjoyed Brad Gushu's keynote address. If anybody hasn't had the chance to listen to Brad Gushu and you get the chance, you should do it. I thought it was a great address on team building and working together and how he improved his performance in curling. Of course, I assume everybody knows Brad Gushu is a champion curler for us. We attended the municipal housing strategy this Monday, and there were some good conversations there. It's great to hear the private sector and their view on things, and also attended the public information meeting on Havenwood, and I know people in Shubenacadie were happy with some of the answers they got and clarification they got at the meeting. Attended Hayday's committee meeting, and we're still working away at Hayday's for July 1st. And of course, people in Shubenacadie are excited about the wastewater plant getting closer to activation. And I wanted to ask through you to Jesse about the crosswalk signs that I'd mentioned after the incident at on the 214 with the flashing lights on top. I noticed the other day when I was driving on Trunk 2 going to Millbrook, they have them installed there on some crosswalks, and I could see the flashing light on top of the sign about 700 meters before I got to the actual crosswalk. So just wondering if there's any information on that.
Through Madam Warden, I referenced letters from the province just getting acknowledgement earlier this week from them being sent a month ago. That was one of them. And so I'll be following up with the province on that as soon as possible. But just validation, it's the side lights aren't there. It's just the overhead light on the 214. It's missing a lot of components. And so it's going to be a focus, and it's on our list until it gets resolved now. So.
Okay. And also wondering if you had any information. I've had people asking me about streetlights that have been requested in District 4.
Through you, Madam Warden, I believe those are the street lights on Highway 224, where we extended the streetlight serviceable boundary.
Yes.
And there were a couple missing on the pole. That was flagged for staff last week, and they're working an action plan to get those in and shuffling around some things. So I don't have an exact date, but it is on the work plan, and it was missed, and now it's on the list for action. So
okay. I'll be able to reassure the residents then that we're on it.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. That's everything for me, Madam.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden. This brings some sad news from the village of Tennecape. Longtime resident and former bus driver and head bus driver Willie Beckman passed away in the early hours this morning after a brief illness. He was well known to the area, drove bus probably for the best part of 45 years.
Drove bus when
And
I
he
was in
did,
high school.
Further than that, this Sunday, if anybody's hungry, there's a breakfast at the White Hall in Knoll Road, put on by the Knoll Road Willing Workers. It is from 9 to 12. It's a good breakfast there, and the following Sunday, come to the Fire Hall in Knoll, and you won't go away hungry there. We're growing leaps and bounds. The last one, we had 181 people through the door at it. So anyway, and that is all from District 6.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Attended the Legion Awards on the 25th of May as the Branch 165 in Mount Uniacke celebrated their 40th anniversary. At this time, I was able to present, along with Councillor Musa, a volunteer award to a member of the community who was unable to make volunteer awards night. Also attended the public information meeting for the RYC property in Shubenacadie. It was very good to see, the developer answered a lot of the questions and made a lot of people feel a lot better about what's going on, and it was a little less contentious than some of the other ones I've attended lately. Also took part of Open East Hants, VAC Canada, Uniacke Lakes Animal Hospital, which is a brand new business in Mount Uniacke. had an Open East Hants open their doors to the community. Took my little ones through, and the facility is actually made of an old church. And excuse me, what a wonderful facility. They do everything there from dental work to surgeries to giving discretion and a dignified end, I guess, to a pet's life as well. So the services are definitely welcome in the community. Talking to the business owner, they're doing quite well, and they hope that their example brings more professional services to the area to provide a closer link to the rural area, because as we all know, you live in the rural area, you got to travel quite a distance to go to a veterinarian or anything like that. So that was well received. I'd be remiss not to mention that the Uniacke Firemen's Fair will be the 21st and 22nd of June. The parade on the 22nd starts at 11 a.m. Fireworks in the Midway Friday night from 6 to 10. I did have a question through if the municipality was going to be taking part in the parade or providing any publication. We talked about it last year, and there wasn't enough time, but a way to promote the municipality in that corner of the municipality, in that down in Mount Uniacke. I know the municipality has taken part in other parades and other things for just publicity. It doesn't have to take part in the parade, but just some sort of branding or attendance, if that was on the radar. So I don't know who I would ask that to staff.
Okay, bear with me. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you, staff don't participate in parades. Council have in the past participated in parades. And I remember having this conversation, I can't remember the exact details of the end of it. But I think where we came to was the municipality would commit to swag of some kind if councillors wanted to participate in their own parades in their own communities, was where I thought we got to. So if
I just remembered that we were looking to get our new branding out there and making everybody feel East Hants is home, and letting people see the municipality.
Yeah.
Certain areas, they see them more than others, and this is one area that draws from a large section of, well, the entire Mount Uniacke, but a large portion of the Warden's district as well, comes down to attend the festivities. And it's a way of showing the municipality in the corners from a marketing and communications piece. That's the way I was understanding it, that it could be used, whether it was just not taking part in the parade, but maybe just a
Some
booth or something.
advertisement in
Yeah, some
social media.
advertisements and things like that.
we
Showing the municipality is there beyond just like the local area councillors, because in the rural area, they see their councillors all the time, and they know the councillors are there trying to work for them, but it's the municipality that they feel is not there as a face as much, because there's not much signage, there's not much, like, you go to a lot of things around this area, and there's the pop-up signs, there's things like that, and there's more of a footprint of the municipal reach where you don't really get that as you head further out to the corners of the municipality. So I was just thinking that this could be an opportunity, and if it's not this year, maybe it needs to go into planning for next year, because I do know there are events in some of the other corners that would do really well for the branding and making everybody in the municipality feel as one. Because as we traveled during the last planning review, there definitely was some areas of the municipality that don't feel as connected as others. And I think it's incumbent upon us as council and staff to make everybody feel inclusive in being part of this municipality and all the benefits it has being part of the municipality.
through you, Madam Warden, we do have some funds in the budget to do that kind of work, like the branding work around Mount Uniacke and whatnot. I think we've actually done a really great job in the last probably year to get more events and more opportunities out in Mount Uniacke in the rural areas for, having winter events and camps and programming. From a branding perspective, I think it's a good opportunity. I'm just not sure. I don't have the staff on a July long weekend to go to every parade in
absolutely.
East Hants. But we could certainly, you know, we have a sort of a parade banner. We have all of those things that, for that particular event, if counselors wanted to participate in that, we could give you resources to help do that. But I do want to sit down with you and Councillor Musa in particular and talk about Mount Uniacke as the community and where the municipality may be but not be present. So we're there, but we're just not, people don't know we're there.
Exactly.
So how can we improve that for the folks in Mount Uniacke to understand how they can connect with the municipality and how they do connect with the municipality on a daily basis, and they may not even realize it.
Absolutely. And then,
Right.
and that's kind of the thing is there's a lot of instances where people don't know they really are connected.
Yeah.
Until they kind of put a face and see a name. So,
Yeah.
so I'll touch base with somebody to get that stuff for that
Yeah.
day, for the parade. So that was just something that I thought maybe going forward is something that, as part of communications, could
Yeah.
go
Just
forward.
relating to that, Counselor, I had hoped to attend the Mount Uniacke Parade this year, but it's on the 22nd, you tell me?
Yes.
I'm still at the Atlantic Mayor's Conference on the 22nd. I'm not sure what time I'm back, and Counselor Mitchell is still patiently waiting for me to confirm if I'm able to go to his fire department banquet on that same evening. So the chances are I won't be home from Summerside in time to make that
I don't
parade.
think you will be.
apologize.
That's okay, Warden.
And I'm sorry, I thought it was July 1st, but
No, it's the 22nd of June. I believe I mentioned last month that Mount Uniacke Fire Department has a new chief, Sean Darby. The outgoing chief, Brian Supple, retired after 35 years of service. And the last thing I have, and this is going to be something the warden is familiar with. I am CREC, I think it's how it is.
CCRC.
CCRC recently sent a notification to the parents on Douglaswood Avenue, or Douglaswood Drive, in Lakelands, that their busing was going to be halted and their bus stop was to be moved further on down the South Rawdon Road. This affects 15 children from the ages of pre-primary to grade 9. That's the span that it affects. This bus stop has been in place for well over 25 years. It's not something that was new or just started. It's been going on for 25 years. The parents were provided a letter on a Wednesday that service was going to end on Friday. All of the parents I've talked to, which is 7, all contacted the phone number and all emailed the email provided, and not one has received a response in the entire time. As of today, they still have not received any responses from CRDC. So I am asking that that council sends a letter to CCRC with concerns about the busing and the moving of the bus stop from Douglaswood. The biggest safety concerns is there's no shoulder on that road. If you go down the South Rawdon Road and you look, the white line is gone on parts of the road and it's straight to the ditch. There is no shoulder. The road is actually, there's parts of that road that aren't road because of erosion. So there's some big issues there. And I would like this letter, similar to ones we've sent before about busing issues, to be sent to the MLAs, the Department of Education, and the Premier of Nova Scotia.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Musa. Councillor Garden Cole. Just 1 second here, like this. Situation is laggy.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just to comment on Councillor Perry's comment, actually, are they within the 1.6? Did they give a reason, or are they?
They're about 15 kilometers away from the school. What they said was the bus stop where they stop, the bus driver has apprehensions of stopping there because of a rise in the hill. But like I said, this bus stop has been going on for well over 25, if not 30 years. So it's something that, came out of nowhere to a lot of these residents.
And this was recently?
About a week and a half ago, yeah.
Just an odd
With
time.
5 weeks left to go in the school year.
That's what I'm thinking,
Right?
yeah.
The residents did say if they had notified them that something was coming in September, then they would have time to have discussions and talk. But with 5 weeks, given 3 days' notice, there are instances too where there are some elderly retired people who assist young families that have to go to work, and they walk the kids to and from the bus stop. So going into next year in the wintertime, they're not going to be able to walk them to the bus stop because it's not safe to be on that road.
And I know the warden can concur because, and anyone else who's living in the rural areas, that, you know, we all have our issues with the busing, but in the rural areas, it's literally, you know, lack of shoulders or whatnot that it's practically impossible to walk on, and they just don't seem to care about. Okay, I was just getting clarification on that. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'll totally support the motion, but I would suggest that we go even one step further. These problems with this new school board system or school system, a regional system that they have, is not working. It's not working, and not just for the entirety of the education that's happening in our area. I would suggest that this council write for the Premier and the Department of Education, whoever we can get to listen, that if they would ask them to reconsider installing school boards back within the province. Because when we had school boards, we had local
I'm gonna stop you,
representation.
Counselor, not because I don't agree with you, not because I won't allow you to make that, but there is a motion on the floor.
But I was on before the motion, ma'am.
Well, I did not notice that.
I was on before the motion.
If, I will come back to you once the motion's
All right.
been voted on. Any more discussion to the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously, and apologies to Counselor Perry. I'm going to let Counselor Rhino
Absolutely.
continue to address his concerns.
It's just that we have ongoing problems, and they've seemed to increase in these problems since we did away with the school boards, which were closer to the public, and people knew where to go. They got some kind of answer, whether they liked it or not. And it just seems to be this regional system is not working. And I would make a motion that this council write a letter to the province of Nova Scotia and to all those MLAs and Department of Education that a consideration be given to reinstalling school boards within the province of Nova Scotia.
And the Premier included in that.
Yes.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
So,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion to the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously. Counselor, and back to you, Counselor Perry.
that's all I have. Thank you, Warden.
Counselor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I think Councilor Perry covered most of the, I don't want to repeat everything he said, so I also attended the Legion Award and it was nice. I was late, but I made it. And I have some question to Jesse. No, not Jesse, not you, sorry. About the business sign in Mount Uniacke. I think it's been approved just before COVID, and it's been 4 or 5 years. I wonder how long that's gonna take to be done.
Through you, Madam Warden, for clarity, are you referring to the one in this year's capital budget that's a 2-year project, like similar to the one that's out front here in Elmsdale Business
Well,
Park?
I know when the one in Elmsdale came in, and within 1 year it was done. Like the one in Mount Uniacke, we've been talking about it like for 4 or 5 years, even before COVID. I know COVID put a stop on everything, but I think it's time for that to be done, because we want to show like we were just talking about the municipality showing presence in the rural area, And the businesses have asked us, and I don't see anything like being done there. So we have couple businesses in the park that do, like, we have a business in the park that do those signs. I don't know why we are waiting, what we are waiting for.
So through you, Madam Warden, I can just provide some clarity for council on that question. So in your capital plan this year, you have a business park sign for the Uniac Business Park, and it's a two-phase project, and I'll just explain why it's a two-phase. Unlike the sign out here where we either have land or we've negotiated with permission of the province, in Mount Uniac, we have to use the first year to get our land negotiations and get that access secured, as well as design the sign. The designing of the sign shouldn't really take that long. It's really the land piece to make sure we have permission and have secured an agreement with the landowner to put it there. And then year 2 will be construction and installation.
So would there be, if that land negotiation is successful in a shorter time frame, would that shorten the whole project up?
Through you, Madam Warden, yes, a good point. If council has approved it in its entirety, so we just didn't want to overpromise and say we could do it in 1 year. Realistically, it may take 2. But to your point, Warden, if we can achieve it sooner, absolutely, we will do that for sure.
And which location you're looking for?
I would have to check with the team and get back to you on that one. I can follow up via email.
I would, if you are you putting one sign or two?
Pardon me?
Just one sign on one road? Or?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that all, Councillor Musa? And Councillor Perry?
Just to follow up with Councillor Musa, when that land negotiation happens for that sign, we already know and has been identified the entrances and exits to our business park are undersized. I would hate to see us put a sign in and then have it tore out when they finally go to widen and make the proper turning radius similar to this business park here for vehicles coming in and out of the business park. That's a huge concern. I wouldn't want to see, all this effort go into a sign and then it be tore out. So I definitely think between the EBD, I believe is handling the sign, and INO, some synergy there is definitely something that to keep in mind, especially where, we have a lot of large clients that take lots of long trailers, and safety is very paramount there. So that's what I have to say about that. There's one thing I forgot to mention about the Legion Awards. Councillor Musa did receive an award that night for his business for all of the support throughout the community and to the Legion that him and his family have provided over the last 30 years.
Anything else, Councillor Musa?
Just one question about the land location. So when we build our road, like, we own something on the side or no? Like, outside the ditches, that's all we own, or we have some?
Yeah, through you, Madam Warden, we have our right-of-way for the roads that we own.
So anyway, we can put those signs on those right-of-way somewhere?
Through you, Madam Warden, I'd have to check with the team, but I think the intent is that it isn't going to sit in the right-of-way and there isn't room. And just also for clarity, I just want to refresh, I don't have the project pulled up in front of me, but just to make sure we're aligned in what the sign actually is, it is similar to the advertising sign that we have out front here. So to answer your question directly, I don't believe there is a space in the right-of-way that we could put it. We will go back, and now that you've raised that, and just do another check with our INO and our EBD teams collaboratively. And if there is, then maybe it helps us. But I believe they've already done that scan in the initial capital planning process.
Thank you.
Councillor Tingley.
On April 29th and May 9th, attended the final meetings with the Arena Association with Councillor Mitchell. That seems to have been transferred over to the municipality pretty smoothly. I've had some good comments about Scott Preston already from residents in my area. May 2nd, I attended a Climate Atlantic conference in Truro with a neighbor in my district I'd never met her before. Climatic, Climb Atlantic had linked me up to drive with her. She works for agriculture, horticultural Nova Scotia. She's got a science degree in environmental science and a diploma in renewable resource management. She moved to our area about a year ago from the Yukon. May 7th, attended a webinar through NSFM and the insurance ICLR forecasting the forest fires for this year. May 2nd, set in on a Intact Entities webinar titled Effective Leading Your Community. Today I received an email that was sent to the CAO as well from a resident, and I've already responded to most of his concerns, but one concern he had was he says he's sending requests in under the road app requesting information, and he doesn't receive a response or any activity. And I don't know what the situation is, but ask that the CAO or staff respond to that. Not here, but just respond to him. One last thing, I noticed in NSFM's Monday memo on May 6th, they mentioned about the Intact flood risk checkup. And I think council is aware of that. Our insurer fund this group that prepared that checkup. I think it would be useful for the municipality to do it, and there's no expense to it. So I'd like to move that the CAO instruct staff to complete the 50-question municipal flood risk checkup, self-assessment questionnaire designed by Intact Center for Climate Adaptation to assess potential flood hazards and implications of actions to reduce risk in the municipality.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hav. I'm going to turn it over to the CAO because this is not just a 50-question questionnaire. This is a very large undertaking, so I'll turn it over to the CAO.
Through you, Madam Warden, I'll echo your comments. I did look at that when it came through, and when I probably only spent about 10 minutes looking through it, but it did look to be like quite a detailed document that you would have to go through almost an entire process of your flood risk review to answer it. So if council wants us to do that, we can absolutely do that. But I can't tell you the timeline that it will take. I'd have to get Jesse to look through that and see what kind of information we already have, see what kind of information we need to go and get. I guess I would offer you those comments. It's not doable. I just don't know how much time it will take. And what the benefit would be at the other end if we're going to look at, we've talked about flood risk management. We've talked about doing reports and doing a study. I think this is sort of a lot of the information would be that gathering of information that would go into a study to do your flood risk review. Again, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I looked at it and thought, oh, it's not just some simple yes and no questions. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, there is more to that. There is a little bit of work to it. But it's not a flood risk mitigation plan. It's just the beginning of a start
Right.
to just identify what you do know now.
Right.
Some things you might not even be able to answer.
And that would be the first, through you, Madam Warden, that would be the first step in your flood risk mitigation study, is to identify what's being identified in that.
But
in
we're
that
so far
survey.
away from that.
I agree.
I think this would just help us in the short term realizing that there's still a lot of long-term things that have to be done, and it'll be decades dealing with this. This is just one short-term thing. But anyway, I just put it out there, and we'll see where it goes.
Any further discussion? Councillor Garden Cole. Oh, sorry. There's something going on with the system. I'm having pictures pop up in it and all kinds of fun things tonight, folks, so.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm just wondering, before I would vote in favor of this, I would want to know what the time, like if how much work this would be for staff, or how in-depth it is, or what the outcome would be ultimately if you did it compared to what we are already have agreed to take on. But I don't want that to be a big, long process either, trying to figure out what the process would be to complete it. But I don't want to say, yes, go ahead and do it, and have it eating up a bunch of staff's time. I really don't know enough about it, and maybe nobody does, to know how in-depth it's going to go, rather than just saying, you know, I did the HIA A1, as did Councillor Mitchell, and, you know, was a bunch of questions, and I answered them to the best of my ability, and I was done. But I don't know enough about this to be able to vote for or against it, really. Thank you.
I did the airport survey as well. I'm sure this is a lot more than the airport survey. But the other thing about this is the organization that devised this checkup is the main insurer of most of the municipalities, and including, I think we do a lot of insurance with intact entities as well. So they supported, they recommended. I think it would be a good thing to do for a timeline, even if you put 6 months on it. I don't think it would take 6 months, but, and this is not going to be to do work. This is just going to be to fill out a questionnaire.
I think I'm going to weigh in just quickly here. We're not sure of a time. Staff have indicated from what they know that it would be a significant amount of work. And at the end of the day, we wouldn't have done anything but possibly identify further risk. That we already know that there are places at risk, and we're trying to manage our investigations into that and our strategies to deal with that in a manageable way. And just personally myself, I'm not, I just don't know enough, as Councillor Garden Cole has said, as to, but anyway, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm kind of along the same lines, where I don't have a good synopsis and we don't have a good feeling of how much work this is. And I find it's an insurance company asking us to identify areas that we are at risk for, right? And so right there, it says, you know, in my mind, it's like, you know, asking you how fast and how bad do you drive, right? And if you're a bad driver and you drive, and you know, are they going to up your rates or not? It just, to me, I would need more information from staff on the time commitment and the value. Like, I would need an assessment done on the checklist of whether it is what the value is added to the municipality for this, because we already do have things in the work to look at the flood mitigation, and if this is just duplication of effort, or if it does have value and could lead into something, that is something that I would need to know before I could vote going forward. Thank you.
I'll just add one more comment, and then I think we should just vote whatever the vote is. This is not a trick by an insurance company. This is a separate organization from the insurance company that is funded by an insurance company. They're out of the either Waterloo or Western University, one of the two places. And they do not work directly for the insurance company. 16 of the major cities in Canada have already taken this test, or questionnaire, over the last 3 or 4 years. And other municipalities have taken it as well. There's no trick here, there's no, it doesn't force anybody to do anything, and some are not doing anything after it happens, but it is a good tool, so I'm recommending it. If it doesn't fly, it doesn't fly.
Thank you.
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion has been defeated by a vote of 8-3 with Counselor McPhee, Counselor Eisnell, and Counselor Tingley voting in favor and everyone else voting against. Anything else, Counselor Tingley?
That's it, thanks very much.
Okay, before we go to the in-camera part of our agenda, I do have a couple of things that I neglected to mention. It's come to my attention that FCM does not have a candidate from Nova Scotia identified at this time for the position formerly held by Councillor Mitchell. Very well filled. And I believe that Councillor Mitchell brought experience, wisdom, and diversity to that organization. And so I just wanted to throw out to council, and that's assuming Councillor Mitchell would even be interested, because I didn't have a chance to ask him, that if he would be interested if a nomination were to come forward. I don't know if it's too late to come from us or if it would come from the floor at FCM. But if that were to happen, council would have to have a motion on the books supporting that nomination for it to happen. So I guess the first question is, Councillor Mitchell, yay or nay?
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you, I had this discussion with the first president, Jeff Stewart, and he called me on Saturday to see if I put my name forward. And the question I asked was if I put my name forward and become a director, and it kind of commits me to put my name forward to reoffer as council in the fall. My explanation to him was I wasn't at that stage where I'm going to decide I made my decision yet.
Okay.
If I put my name forward and be at the FCM, become a director and lose, if I put my name forward as a councilor and lose, I'm automatically off as a director. So that's where it stands. I told
Every
him,
director's in that position.
yeah. I told him that I would make my decision on council. If I reoffer and win, then I put my name forward maybe the following year as a director.
But for this year, you would prefer that we not put your name
Not,
forward?
I saw the same that you saw, that there's nobody for Nova Scotia yet.
Okay, well,
And I'm assuming the rest were in the same boat, so.
I think that, I will honor your decision, but I will say I think it's FCM's and our loss.
That's my decision at the present time. I have made the final decision on
Yeah.
council moving forward.
All right, so that answers that question. Second quick question, the Dr. Snow Awards for Hants North Rural High graduation. I'm scheduled to do that. That graduation ceremony is on council night. I do enjoy going to Hants North and presenting that award. However, I also feel that my first responsibility is to be here and chair the meeting at council. Deputy Warden Green has indicated that he would make the swap with me and present the award. I just wanted to let council know and make sure you're okay with us doing that. And finally, we've been approached by NSFM to come in and meet with us on a touch base thing. They had provided a date or two that just simply, without even coming to council, didn't work. So staff offered them council meeting, a time during council, at the beginning of council meeting in July. And they are available on that day, but they seem to be concerned about whether it would be part of the council meeting or not. Now, I'm not sure why, and maybe when we follow up, they'll decide it's not. But I would just like to get a feeling from council that should they not want to come on, say at 7 o'clock at the first part of the council meeting, would council consider perhaps a meeting prior to council, say 6:30. They're trying to travel around to different municipalities and touch base and get some more feedback on anything and everything that the NSFM is doing. I suppose how the new structure is working out. Do we think they're working on the right things? How do we think things are going? Because not all counselors get to NSFM, and I think they're kind of making an effort to get to the grassroots of council, so to speak, and just do a little touching base. So anyway, Councillor Mitchell.
Going back to the Dr. Snow, if Deputy Ward's not here, does somebody sit in for him?
Generally, it would be the chair of corporate services, I think, fills in if the deputy warden's not there. That's the way we used to do it anyway, so.
That's all, just want to make sure that seat was full.
So regarding NSFM, Councillor Perry, or I assume that's all.
Yes, Madam Warden. I don't, unless they provide a reasoning that they would not want to appear before council in a council session, whether there's something of a sensitive matter or confidentiality, I would be in favor of them appearing at a council meeting. Our council meetings are an open forum. They're open to the public. They're streamed online. This would provide transparency and would provide a great opportunity for both the NSFM to allow residents of East Hants to understand that there is another organization working on their behalf towards the provincial government on matters, and it would allow us to interact with them, and it would provide a very well and open forum that is not behind a closed door that the public doesn't see, because at the end of the day, everybody that will be in that meeting is there to represent the public. So for that reason, I would be more in favor of them being on the agenda, first topic of the night for council.
Any further comments? So then, I don't think we need a motion to have them put on the council agenda. The CAO is able to do that, so that's the offer that we will make.
If they don't want that, are we just saying, no, we don't want to meet them?
So there's the question, should they, for whatever reason, not want to appear on the council agenda? Do we simply say we're not prepared to meet with them? Councillor Perry.
Well, I would have to ask the reasoning why they would not want to appear on a council agenda. We already talked about it earlier tonight with provincial parties and caucuses wanting to meet with council, and we say we meet with them all together and we meet in an open forum. We don't do business behind closed doors unless there was something of a confidential thing and it needed to be in camera, or whether it had to involve legal issues or things like that. But I think if they're unwilling to be open, then my response would be, and I would let this response be known to the entire membership of NSFM, that we will not meet with them unless it's in an open forum.
And I think their suggestion of a meeting was similar to when Minister Lohr and his staff came and met. They didn't come to a council meeting, they just came and met with councillors who were available to get some feedback, and that was the thing. And I suspect that that's what this is. But, so I guess I'd be comfortable with a motion to either A, only meet with NSFM if they come within the purview of the council meeting, or whether to try and make alternative arrangements should they not be able to do that. What's your wish? Councillor Tingley.
I don't think NSFM are trying to do anything in secrecy or anything like that. Everything they do is on their website and Facebook and all over the place. So I'd be willing to make a motion to meet whenever would be convenient for either council and NSFM.
With the preference being the council meeting, if possible.
Yes.
Do we have a seconder? Discussion to the motion.
Question?
Question's been called.
So what's the motion? That we're going to meet with them? Is it back on the table that it will be during?
That's the date that's currently in discussion as council in July, at the
Okay.
beginning of the meeting.
But if they can't,
Yeah, this would determine whether or not. This could be either, depending on what the correspondence is between the CAO and NSFM. We would hope they would be here for 7, but if for whatever reason they just want to touch base and go without the formality of a council meeting, we would entertain, those councilors who were interested and could be here would entertain coming and meeting them.
At 6:30, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. The motion is passed by a vote of 10-1 with Councillor Rhino voting nay. And I'm sure the CAO will, explain to them that our preference is certainly to have them at the council meeting. Those were just a few items that I had neglected to bring up during my warden's report. I also, in the in-camera session, I have a very short question asked that might be of a legal nature that I'd like to include in the in-camera discussion. So, having said that, I would be looking, that concludes the business from councilors. We have in-camera items scheduled on a land issue and 2 contractual issues, plus the issue I just mentioned. So I would be looking for a motion to go in camera.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried, and Julianne's going to stand up and wave at us when we're safely Okay, we're good to go. I would report that we had met in camera to discuss some contractual issues, land issues, and possible legal issue. Out of those discussions, there's one motion coming forward. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Warden. I move that council terminate capital project 21012 and the council approves capital project 24043 Sportsplex revitalization totaling $835,332. Funding to be provided via $435,332 special reserves, C010, Sportsplex excess debenture, $50,000 external funding, rink revitalization grant, and $350,000 from the 23-24 year-end surplus, and that council resolves to apply for applicable grant funding as available, and that the Mount Uniacke Recreation and Rural Fire Department capital funds will receive $119,000, $80,000 from the 2023-2024 year-end surplus respectively. I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. So I would be looking for a motion to set the
There's
date and
the
time.
ratification.
Oh,
I have
am
one more thing.
sorry. I am sorry.
All right. It's still me, Warden, so we're good.
Okay, back to you, Councillor.
Council
Perry.
gave direction to staff during an in-camera session on March 27th, 2024, in response to a request from the East Hants Arena Association seeking funding to meet contractual obligations. Council may now proceed with ratification. Move that the CAO was given authority to act on the letter dated March 26, 2024, that was received from the East Hants Arena Association Board to fund contractual obligations. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously. Now I would be looking for a motion to set the date and time of next council meetings, June 18th, 2024, regular meeting of council for policy and in camera, and June 26th for the regular meeting of council.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. I would now be looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. We will give staff time to turn off the live stream, folks.